Oh gosh. I have been wanting to talk about pot and weed for a long ass time. But it's a very touchy subject. Very touchy subject. Especially in the conspiracy world the last 12 years. And I've touched upon it every so often. I would get attacked, then I would back away. Because I had my own demons to deal with. So it wasn't worth attracting so much flack. But now that we're in climate change and people are dropping like flies, like seriously, dropping like flies, and they can blame whatever they want to blame it on. But as you know, even if you blame it on the V's, I don't think the drugs and the alcohol and the crazy sex and all the alchemy and all the herbal remedies that give you energy or take away energy is going to help anyone. Especially those who feel they need to get a V or not get a V or get a therapy. None of that shit's helping them. Okay? And so now that you're seeing people dropping like flies, I felt even yesterday, I felt the frequencies change. I heard a long tone around 2 in the afternoon, and it was very long. And then right after that, I felt the growth on my chest. And I felt bloated. I felt even a little bit hungry. So even though I had some of my beef stroganoff, I also had 2 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches later on. Okay, because I needed to feed those demons of growth. And this morning when I released, I really definitely had to do a little bit of humming to get some of that stuff out. Because there was a lot of growth, but all the hives are gone. They're not there anymore. So whatever was on my neck a week or so ago was all over my chest. Like, seriously, all over my chest. It was crazy. Okay? And so I know that people are dealing with aggressive growths and cancers that they can't get ahead of. And I've heard people are getting diagnosed even more so in the hospital, getting operations and all that. And so I know correlation equals causation. If I can feel the growth and see it and know how to release it and also derive benefit from it, those who are so far gone are going to have the complete opposite effect, complete opposite outcome. It's going to do more damage to them in this environment than it's going to help them. And so it was, going back to the past of the 60,000 person group and watching people release those demons. And they're posting it all over in the group, posting their poop pics, which we had to tell people, put them in the comment line. Don't put them out there in the actual post because it's some gross stuff. But there was something to it. There was something so biblical about posting your shit because you're seeing the Garden of Eden. That was the Garden of Eden. Was all the little microbes that manifest into the characteristics and phenotypes of the people. Okay? All of what's in your poop was controlling what you looked like, what you sounded like, what you felt, thought, believed in. That was the programming. That was the programming that people were under. And some got some relief releasing those demons. And so when you think about even our society, okay, it's all about group mentality, group think, group this, group that, team building, team this, team that, politics, religion, science, hanging out together, holidays, traditions, family, friends, feeling like you need to belong to something. And that was my whole sabbatical for the last 40-something years, is trying to find the religion to belong to. Trying to become a drug addict or an alcoholic so I could feel accepted and have fun like everybody else is. How does a person say they tried to be a drug addict and an alcoholic? How do you even fucking say that? Because that is the mainstream out there. Addiction. Drug addict, alcoholism, Academics and traditions and holidays, that's what is accepted. Doing so well in your job that you have to be under the influence, even under prescription drugs, to do so well for your job, sacrifice your body for your job to the point of oblivion. That's what is so accepted. And when I had that PMS crap and there was nothing out there and I wasn't going to give up my coffee because that was the only thing that gave me some kind of joy, having to trudge to work every day, getting up at 6:30, 7 o'clock to get to my car or the bus or the train on time to get into San Francisco or some other place. Coffee and going out to eat was the only thing that gave me joy besides see if I could kick ass at work. And so, yeah, so I had to deal with the torture of being down for however long I needed to be down. And that meant that I wasn't going to make the money like others, like those in Wall Street. I was watching, what was that? I was watching Grass is Greener on Netflix. And I did try to watch it a couple months back, but I'm just like, this is all weed promotion. I'm not watching this shit. But now that I've figured out how to talk about it, and I actually looked at what Reefer Madness was, I thought it was just a song by Louis Armstrong or some other dude. And no, it's also a movie. And so when we had the passing of the recreational use of marijuana, and everyone's like, yoo-hoo. I mean, they were smoking anyways, but now it's legalized. And I'm talking about alkaloids. And we know that THC, the alkaloids of marijuana, whether it's in CBD or the psychoactive effects in the recreational use and even medicinal use, also causes demons and offspring and potentially even infertility. Actually, yes, it's been proven infertility. That's what I'm trying to figure out. How are they projecting that in 2045, 2050, we're going to have men basically be gone because they're going to be infertile? And so when you have men that are infertile, there goes the testosterone base of adding to the population. So then it's just a bunch of women, right? Bunch of women, mostly estrogenic. Obviously, you need to have a sperm that has testosterone in order to inseminate the egg. And when you don't have as many men as they are dropping like flies, women aren't going to have babies unless they go and get in vitro or go find a sperm donor, someone who is viable. But when that pool is basically done, like some men, even here in Ohio, they get women pregnant early, and then they don't get women pregnant later on because look at the pot usage out there. There's so much, and I'll tell you, and I know this area, of course, people here smoke so much pot, and it's no surprise that the younger boys at 15, when they don't smoke as much pot because they're not exposed to it, they're hot to trot, they get their girls pregnant, so yeah, they're fertile. And then as they get older in their 40s and 50s, they're not fertile anymore. They've done the studies even all over the place. California, Colorado, Utah, okay? They've done the studies even back in the 1930s. So that's what I was trying to figure out, like, how do they project infertility? And then I knew it affected the sperm. Because even some men have said when they were high that they couldn't really perform because they were high. But if when they weren't high or they were on alcohol, they could perform. And I'm like, okay, there is some kind of correlation. So then I figure out, okay, so that's how they're projecting the infertility in the future. Men will be out, men will be gone because the hot girls, the hot chicks are right now being born, skinny hot chicks. Yeah, they're beautiful. These girls are coming out right now, beautiful, and they are tempting the men. What do you mean? Like, well, the men are released. They're either getting off on AI, or they're getting off on the OnlyFans because you're supposed to be an actual person on OnlyFans, or they're getting off on whoever is nearest that is willing to give up their body, mind, and spirit. And so then the men will be releasing themselves out of existence. So that's how men are going to be gone. And then you have the gay men screwing each other out of existence as well. Okay. I mean, there's no discrimination when it comes to the downfall of society through aggressive sexuality, regardless of what your orientation is. So that's now how I can now attack the marijuana. So now watching The Grass is Greener, and I'm seeing how heavily they're promoting it. Oh my God. And yeah, it's all the way back to Louis Armstrong days. All the way back to, who was it? It was the Mexicans and it was the black people that were heavily into the marijuana. Now, they remember, they're victims of ancient history. It's been done for thousands of years. And that's what's given people the license to defend it. Oh, it's been around since 2700 BC. Oh, I wouldn't disagree with that. Absolutely. There's history. There's proof that marijuana was even prevalent way back in ancient China. They were using it to shamans in all these different indigenous countries. And what is it? Is it New Orleans? Okay, all the voodoo stuff has the weed madness in there, right? And that's where the jazz age, the jazz club, jazz stuff was birthed out of New Orleans, out of Harlem, and there's the entertainment industry. Even Snoop Dogg was talking about it, how he was introduced to alcohol and drugs at like 8 years old by an uncle, 9 years old, and look, he's a rapper, he's a rap artist. And so, if it wasn't for the drugs, right, and all the addictions, you wouldn't have all the creativity. And so when you think about Hollywood, yeah, they are the human sacrifices because they're under drugs, alcohol, sex, trauma. Even my information came from a lot of crazy-ass trauma shit. That's how you get the innovation. And that's how the system had to get the innovation. It's crazy, at the expense of so many people. But what are you going to do when you're trying to advance a society? And that's how humans figured out how to keep advancing civilizations. That's why there's so many wars and so many resets. Because as you pull the innovation out of the population, it's also going to descend in so much crazy madness. And that's why you had that movie, The Reefer Madness. And it wasn't done by mainstream people. They didn't want to popularize it. It was more of it was now more, and even back then, it was more used as a satire to make fun. And then you saw the performers in the jazz clubs talk about reefer madness. Like, and you can watch that in that movie, Grass is Greener. Because now that when you look at the other side, not the promotion of marijuana, but now looking at the downsides, what it's contributed to, not only infertility. Now why, since fertility can be so deadly, why am I against marijuana because of infertility? Because it's not just infertility. It's also then managing all the diseases and causing the body to develop offspring that are not going to not only not carry on the human race, right? Okay, that's one side of it, the infertility in the future, but the person is being eaten alive from the inside. Those addictions are destroying them. The demons, parasitic energies. That's why that picture of the ectoplasm was so appropriate now that they legalized marijuana here in Ohio. And then when I walked into that restaurant on that Friday and I breathed in all that in, my head's full of offspring, mucosal offspring, and I'm releasing those demons in the middle of the night through my nose, blowing my nose, and I know, like, oh my God, yeah, I'm breathing in all the crazy ass spirits, and my body's developing offspring, and you have to release demons or they turn into cancer, disease, chronic illness, obesity, emaciation. So then I figured out that, pot. So now that with the legalization of pot, and now people are going to do it, of course people are going to do it now, people are being, I've seen people who say that, they're all about sex and love, okay, and they're all love, and they're, avid pot smokers. They say it on Facebook. And you saw them at one point, before the pandemic. And they were, they had fat to them. They could have been obese. They could have been borderline obese. But they had some form to them. The last 3 years, and of course, I'm sure they're still smoking pot. I'm sure they're still making all their food. Because why wouldn't you? If you're smoking pot, that should give you an appetite. Of course it does. You're developing offspring. You have to feed those offspring. But those offspring stay trapped inside. They're not allowed to be released. And guess what happens? The person now is so sunken in. They have been cannibalized by those offspring. That's why the hunger around pot. And I figured that out because I remember when I was smoking pot, I would be having the munchies, like you wouldn't believe the munchies. Absolutely, you have to feed those kids in your body. And so while girls can smoke pot and develop life, and supposedly we hear that there isn't really it doesn't affect the offspring. I'm sure everything does. To what level causing deformities? Probably not. But as far as the men over time, when men have been exposed to marijuana over time and they do like every day or whatever, yeah, it's going to lower their sperm count. And they've done those tests. And so, anyway, so those parasitic energies in the body causing the love hormone to develop and have the little offspring in the body pull you into the addiction of company or going to work, if that's what you have to do. Of course, we have to go to work, right? Or parties and orgies and sexual orientation. So parasites in the body attract friends and family, and of course, developing family. Just because your sperm count's slower doesn't mean you can't inseminate an egg, but over time, yeah, men who smoke pot eventually won't be able to have children. Okay? And the men who are 80 years old, like Al Pacino, still having viable sperm, makes you wonder what his background is, and was he, I don't know. Not like he's going to say it, but he's looking pretty gnarled up right now. And so parasites in the body attract friends and family. That is the war. When you harbor so much diversity of parasitic energies, you have the huge friends and family and association base. How could you not? You are breathing in their ectoplasm and developing offspring, causing cancer, disease, aging, and died suddenly. And so then on top of what I'm saying, plus then the legalization of marijuana. Oh, what's going to add more to then the love and then the hate and the died suddenly? Because remember, when you challenge a pot smoker's lifestyle, as well as even potentially challenge or make their drug scarce, the demons come out. And they're looking. I know people that couldn't find the pot, and they were tearing their whole house apart looking for the pot. And yeah, along with prescription drugs and other things, yeah, the demons, when the demons rear their ugly head, oh God, you don't want to get in the way of people who are that addicted and challenge their lifestyle belief system. You don't want to talk about their kids in their face. It's like, I'm telling you, it's the reefer madness. When you look at those pictures and they say it's sorrow, it's hate, it's violence, it's wild orgies, weird parties, and crime and death and destruction, it ain't fucking wrong. It is not wrong. Just because you're used to society like that, crime and punishment and drugs and sex and alcohol and all that, just because you're used to it doesn't mean it should be that way. It doesn't mean it needs to be that way. Okay? And so when you finally release the demons and save yourself, watch your influence drop. Watch your kids finally become self-sufficient. Because that's what's going on with me. I don't have any kids. And my influence has dropped, which means I don't need to be attracting so many crazy shit towards me. I've released so many different people that were influential in my life, even in my husband's life. And now he has a group of people that are relatively mature and responsible. And that's all I want. You can't take away people's lives or say that you can't be friends with my husband because you have... No, I mean, I want people who are responsible and relatively mature and responsible to have an influence over my husband as well as myself. But my husband is who he is. I can't take away, his background, and he can't take away my background. We are what we are, but we have to figure out how to tolerate what kind of bullshit we can tolerate. And where I draw the line is irresponsible people who drag my husband down as well as me. Okay? And so when you finally release the demons and save yourself, watch your influence drop. Watch your kids finally become self-sufficient. Watch your husband, wife take care of themselves, not bugging you. Watch you scale down your hours in your job and consumerism and religious fanaticism. Life is harmonious and peaceful without the rest and peace. And that is longevity. Watch your addictions to herbs and herbal drinks for energy disappear. Watch you finally gain the mental clarity and you never knew existed. Because I'm telling you, I am riding off the energy of this environment. off what I have inside, off of even just a little bit of coffee. I never drink a full thing of coffee, ever. I'm always having to drink iced coffee the next day because I'm not going to waste this. Okay, so I went from a 60,000 person group, right, to just my Facebook with 1,000 friends that I don't even talk to all of them or even really interact with all of them, maybe just a handful. Okay, and I have just my husband. This is my life. It's just my hubby and me and all of you without being messaged to death. And occasionally, I'll hang out with my husband and the people that he hangs out with occasionally. And so my expenses are doable on one income, and I'm not diagnosed with any disease, and I get freedom to learn. And so that's freedom, in my opinion, when I'm not having to go to the hospital or be afraid to catch something when I go out there. I know when I go in the public, I'm going to catch something. I'm not afraid of it. I know I have to just blow my nose in the middle of the night. Sometimes I could feel it come up, like being possessed by a bunch of little children, and I'm blowing my nose, coughing, sneezing, pulling out the crap the next day. Okay? And so my expenses are doable on one income. I am not diagnosed with any disease, and I get freedom to learn. That is freedom, in my opinion. When the future is so exciting, when you have no fear of dying suddenly or catching disease, and if you do, you're in the release of demons, when you finally are free from saving other people and you can finally pay attention to your own world, no one is guilt-tripping you into supporting them in emotions or dependency. That is freedom. It is the best feeling of all. The fact my family are spread out and self-sufficient is a gift to me and my husband. His family is self-sufficient. No one comes knocking on the door asking for money or asking to be hanging out, asking for anything. No one's doing that. In my husband's family or my family, they're fucking self-sufficient. So am I. It's a gift to have self-sufficient people in your world. Now, we don't really talk to them, but that's kind of the thing. Ashley, hey Ashley, you really are so correct, my friend. Your words truly have resonated in my life. As I battled everyday demons from internal physical, you always came to my wise beyond your years. Thank you, my friend. You're welcome, Ashley. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for being around ever since the chemtrails world. I appreciate that. Okay? And so the fact that sometimes you have to chase away people, and it's not because you don't like them. You do like them. They just have demons. You have demons that are not jiving with each other, and you got to separate or it'll be all out annihilation. It's not like, I respect all people in different ways. Sometimes distance is so much better, and it saves people when you have distance. Okay? That's how I save people, is I distance myself from them because my energy can cannibalize them. Their energy can cannibalize me, and then it's a mutually shared destruction, and you don't want that. You never try to force anything on anybody. You don't force people to like you or to hang out with you. You don't force anything. If it's natural, it'll happen. And it may never happen because it's just not the way it's supposed to happen. And so that's okay. And so everyone in my husband's world and my world is relatively self-sufficient. Okay? We can take care of ourselves without being caught up in other people's wars and demons, and they bring on to themselves. And I do purposely chase away drama and needy people, and yeah, that is not popular in the death culture of our society. Which means being on your own with one or two people who are also self-sufficient is extremely hard to find. So many people are forced to play the game and buy company and support at the expense of their own life. They buy family, they buy friends, and they buy group acceptance, and it's expensive. And Ashley said, I've had to seclude myself to build myself and to keep their demons away from us. It's wild how true it really is. Yeah, right on, girl. So it's very expensive to entertain demons in your life. People do pay with their life. And so scaling all of that down saved my ass. And it was a fight, and it was a long transition, an extremely painful one. And you saw me play the game. I tried to be an alcoholic. I'm going to tell you this. I tried to be an alcoholic. I tried to be a drug addict just so I can fit in. What does that tell you when you try to destroy yourself through drug addiction and alcohol addiction just so you can fit in because people don't like you when you're sober? Do you have nothing in common with? What are you going to talk about? It's when you do stupid shit when you're drug addicted and when you're alcoholic is when they say, hey, now we have something in common. That ought to tell you how messed up our society is when someone like me or anyone else has to become a drug addict or an alcoholic in order to fit in. and actually say, I wanted to be one. Oh, believe me, I wanted to be one. Because you know how much fun drug addicts and alcoholics have? They have so much fucking fun. And they can handle it. Oh my God. And they can still go to work too, on top of that. How do they fucking do it? I've been so jealous of them. But Jillian, you know, you're into indefinite life, Jillian. That's not going to serve you. Well, yeah, I figured that out. But I didn't know about that for a long ass time until the last 7 years. Indefinite life does not require drug addiction or alcoholism or needing to be miserable to have company. It means literally being on your own. So then you see what kind of society you've been raised in. It's all around you. It's been ever since 6,000 years ago. And so scaling all of that down saved my ass. And it was a fight. And it was a long transition, extremely painful one. Not everyone can do what I've done the last 20 years. But now you know it can be done. Why some will walk away from the old world. And that sometimes that's required. Okay? And it's too deadly. It's way too deadly to be in the old world. People are trying to save themselves, and some of you are not helping them save themselves, and so they have to get mean and chase you away. I've had to be the one to take the bullet of being the bad guy. Believe me, my husband wishes he could be like some of the people out there. I even know he wants some of their lifestyle. And I'm like, I don't want their... I know what happens when you live that lifestyle. You end up dead. You end up fucking dead. There's no way I'm going to... No. If you want that lifestyle, you can play that part-time and part-time with me. But somebody has to be the one to be the bad guy. And if no one's the bad guy, then everyone goes over the ship together. Everyone goes over the cliff together. When you have to be nice to everyone and never ever, stand up for yourself, and you have to be the good guy and be the... That's why people walk all over you. Until then you have to be mean because you've set that situation up. And of course, I allowed things to happen. And then when it comes to a head and I finally am able to now provide evidence of why I feel the way I feel, then you turn into the bad guy and everybody hates you. Even your own significant other hates you for a minute. And that takes somebody strong to be able to handle the hate from their husband, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend. It takes somebody strong to be hated by people. When you have boundaries, when you have self-respect, it takes someone so fucking strong to deal with that and sit with that every day. It sucks. Being forced to be mean to save yourself means you are willing to take the bullet of perception to live. You will be the Satan to everyone who you chased away to save yourself. Only the strong and the adaptable can take the bullet for being the bad guy to save their own family or themselves. I don't mind taking the bullets for people that I respect. It doesn't make me a martyr. It's understanding your role, my role in this world, and being strong enough to play the role. Not everyone can play the bad guy. It doesn't mean you're bad. It just means you're willing to walk away from the peer pressure and set an example for the world you live in. I'll tell you, I tried to be an alcoholic and a drug addict. The J world's not for everybody, but it can be done for those who have what it takes. Okay? Thanks, Ashley. So I want to let you know that is what a lot of people are facing. They're willing to be a drug addict and alcoholic in order to fit in because they're so miserable and they are suffering. And so most of you exemplify my information. Never take me personally. Even if you resemble my information, we are in a transitional culture. We, the West, get the luxury to learn and change, okay? Because I know people in my world here as well as out there exemplify everything that I'm talking about. And they'll probably think I'm talking about them. Oh, even if I am talking about you, do you know how many people who live the same lifestyle as you? Do you realize that's the culture? That's what I've tried to break in families and friend groups for 49 fucking years. And it never worked. Why did it work? Because their lifestyle and belief system never resonated with what I was raised with and what I felt at the core. It never did. Now I couldn't even tell you. My sister and I were raised by the same people. We had different programming, but somehow she's able to break into all that and be like, a popular type of person. And I'm just like, dude, Completely the opposite. How does that work? I don't even know. I don't even know. It just did. And so, yeah, so I finally resigned myself to basically be on my own. And so with that said, then I have the freedom to just say what the fuck I gotta say about society without actually confronting anyone, because why would you? There's no reason to. But you know, there's so many colony forming units of the same culture, of clones of people in politics, religion, science, and in groups and addictions and all that stuff all over the community. Every single house out there has a group. Every single house in my neighborhood, all over Canton, Ohio, all over California, Colorado, all over the US, all over the UK, all over the world. Everyone has their little clones of family and addiction and suffering and trauma and alchemy. And so, no, you are not that special. I'm not talking about just you. It's all the clones behind you. And I had to really distinguish that. I had to really put that out there a couple weeks ago or months ago, because it's easy when you see people on your Facebook and it reminds you of things and stuff, and it's not even just them. And then people think I'm talking about them, and no, it's so there's people like you, and it's everybody. It's my next door neighbors. It's people I used to know in high school. They're all alcoholics. It's alcoholism, pot, remedies, medical. It's just everybody. There's nobody off the table here. Some have more addictions and more aggressive addictions that are obvious than others. Some hide it very well. They're functioning alcoholics, functioning drug addicts. And there's some more accepted. Okay, it's better to be on prescription drugs than it is to be on illicit drugs. There's no difference. You're all suffering. And so remember this. Guilt is how people fall on their own swords, okay? So if you've done some questionable things in the past, okay, whatever. That was programming. And so release those demons. And so, you know, you might have been selfish in your youth. So now as the person ages, they will martyr themselves and give away their soul to anyone who will take it. And you'll see that. You'll see, you know, people are like, oh, they were one way when they were a kid, and now they're trying to make up for what they were when they were a kid or young adults. And now they're going to just go and fleece themselves for everybody and just be the good person. Like someone who's, it's crazy. It's so crazy. Like someone who may have done a lot of drugs and worship, I don't say worship Satan, but like do all the heavy metal stuff, right? All the heavy metal music. And then now they're like, well, they're listening to now Bible verses. Wow. So they went from one extreme to another, but you realize that on that one end of being into heavy metal and all that stuff, okay, and maybe doing a few drugs and having a bunch of chicks, okay, now you're going to be the human sacrifice. Now you're going to lay yourself down for everybody. You're going to give so much of yourself, there'll be nothing left for you to do anything with. That's the religion side of it. Either way, they're both self-destructive. One's more accepted based upon your perception. So guilt is how people fall on their own swords. Release the demons. They might have been selfish in their youth, so now as they age, they will martyr themselves and give away their soul to anyone who will take it. So they fall on their own sword. You were always good. Always. Guilt is destroying men. Men, you were just programmed. Do not feel bad about anything regarding yesterday. Women, you are amazing. Stop feeling guilty about shit and stop falling on your own swords. And children should not be guilting you or manipulating you into human sacrifice. Do not die for your children. Do not die for your family or friends. That is the death programming. And you're seeing people who are right now who are actively dying for their friends and family. Literally dying and dying for their children. And actually, I've been trying to explain this to my oldest. My oldest is truly consumed by demons and allow them to control. My second oldest is literally seeing everything you were saying unfold in front of him. Oh my God. In front of her eyes. You broke through finally with me. I'm trying to let my kids understand how wrong I was, and now we need to better understand ourselves and society. Oh, why we done what we did. Time to get healthy mentally, physically, internally. You research literally is 100% in front of our faces, and I'm finally getting the close ones around me to open their eyes. That's so good, Ashley. Just get this book. It's $5 on Amazon, but get my book so you can see what I kind of did. And, oh, God. And so you're so right, too. Yes, I was living for my kids, and I realized I was killing myself. Yeah. All right, but get that $5 book, okay? You don't need to do any more jelly juice. I mean, maybe to activate, but you don't want to cure yourself. Now it's eating all the food. And then there's a way that I pull out the crap, and you have to cut your nails and figure that out, and figure out, your bathroom shower situation, and you're going to have to be sick, and, you're going to have to figure out with your doctor how much you're able to handle and all that. So you got it now psychologically, you got it now intellectually. Now, do you have what it takes biophysically to go through that exorcism? That's the other side of it. So yes, you're doing amazing by now. I understand. That's half the fucking battle, half the battle. The other half is, can you survive that? You may not save your kids. It may or may, we'll just see. And if you can't, and something happens, you can't feel guilty. Don't let something happen where it's out of your control. Because I'm telling you, it's not your fault. If things happen, that's out of your control. Sometimes it's too late. Okay? Okay? Sometimes it might be too late for kids because of their infrastructure, but it may not be too late for you. But no matter what happens, don't let any death around you take you down. That's the most important to understand, because you may not save your kids, all of them. You may save one just by your representation. But if you have a lot of kids, there's no guarantee that some of them will survive this. I don't want to put that promise out there, but I don't want them not surviving, whoever it is, take you down. Okay? So that's one of the most important things. Okay. Very good. All right. But I was really bitter in that book, but I showed you, and the thing is, you do need, just so you know, I don't have this in my book, but you need the milk. Okay, if you're allergic to milk, you're going to have to take a little bit of milk slowly and blow your nose. When you get congested, blow your nose. Blow your nose. And this is an everyday thing. Okay, and you're going to have to feel sick, and it may be hard for you to move. That's what I'm saying. You got to look at your background, your whole background, and see what you could possibly encounter. I'm lucky I didn't have any surgeries. I didn't have any heart issues. I didn't have any major neurological issues. I didn't have any major drug issues. I didn't have too much trauma from any kind of war, okay? Where I had to regrow something. Okay, so my situation, I had PMDD. That was the issue that I had. But I'll tell you, releasing not only the sulfa, the antibiotic demons that I'm sure was given to me when I had pneumonia as a baby, and then all the different prescription medication or over the counter, plus then the marijuana and the alcohol demons and the cigarette demons, all the addictions I've ever done that I had to really battle releasing the last 7 years could incapacitate you on some level. But what saved me was pulling out the crap and eating all the food. It's not just taking a poop. You literally have to go in and sometimes work it out, blowing your nose, coughing, sneezing, and leveraging your whole elementary canal to push it out. And you have to pull it out sometimes. Sometimes it's like that. It's gross, I know. But that's what has saved me the last 7 years, especially the last 2 years, because they changed the environment in 2022. It was so aggressive that my demons came out so much where I was in bed. My dog was still running around doing whatever, going like, what the hell? Why are you in bed? I could barely move, barely eat, barely drink water. It's when I finally had the strength to throw myself in the shower and pull out the shit, literally pull out the programming. And I had to find a way to make my own food. But the husband on the road, he had his own stuff to deal with. You're on your own sometimes. Sometimes your kids could help you and make food for you, and that's great if they understand what's going on. But when you're on your own, then you have to then get yourself downstairs, let the dog out, and then go into the kitchen and try to stand up for even 5 minutes to try to cut potatoes and vegetables to put into a soup because you hadn't eaten for like 2 or 3 days. It's like that. Some people could be they could be paralyzed. Heart attack, stroke, blindness, deafness. There's so many ways of how these demons, when they leave the body, manifest and what they affect. But luckily you have kids, and they could, do things for you. But that's kind of what it is. The food is what's going to keep repairing you, repairing the cells and regrowing them. Okay. And you need the milk, especially skinny girls who are estrogenic. You need the cream. I was doing so much ice cream last year. So I bought 12 boxes of 12 ice cream bars that I was eating every single night. Every single night. And I was making whipped cream. You saw the coffees I was making. I had all this whipped cream. This was all last summer. And I was whipping the cream, putting sugar in there. Regular sugar, and I was even just eating that whole, and then I had to go to the bathroom sometimes because I would be releasing the demons. And you're also gonna get big. You're gonna get bloated. You're gonna gain weight. You're gonna get boobs. You're not gonna look hot. You're not gonna look sexual. That's the other side of it. Now it's about survival. You're gonna look like an earth mother. You're gonna look fertile as hell. They'll have heavy, crazy periods. I'll tell you, it's going to be an interesting biochemical change, but every single pain and suffering that you feel as you're pulling out the shit almost every day or every day, sometimes you can't because it's so up there, but okay, your body will work it out. But you're not doing the J juice, but sometimes you have to sit and look like, and just be sitting in that weight, sitting in that feelings of whatever. And there's no normal way to look. Some days I look puffy, other days I look relatively okay. It's called fluctuation. It's evolution. And sometimes you'll be tired. Okay? And so while you're taking care of yourself and offering advice to your kids on just something, they may not be able to do what you're doing. They may not even understand pulling crap out of their ass. And I don't know how you teach them that, but but that's the thing. They have to eat food. They have to deal with it. And that's how much pain are they willing to endure. And that's where the hospital system and the medical system have to step in, especially if they're minors. And so no matter what, even though you can try to reason with their demons, it doesn't mean you're going to get through. It doesn't mean they have the infrastructure. So save yourself and don't feel guilty if they don't survive. Don't feel guilty. Don't let that, because remember, it's not your fault. You were given a story and you were told something and you acted on it. You were a good person. And even if you weren't a good person, you were always a good person. You were just programmed, acting out your hormones. And so maybe your kids will get this, maybe they won't. Maybe they don't have the capacity to. But still, save yourself, okay? But you need the meat, the milk, the cheese, the eggs. You need the testosterone, okay? All right, Ashley. Fudge, yeah, that's awesome. All right. And so you know why I'm doing this, right? Okay? Because I've gotten to know all of you, I won't say intimately, but pretty well the last 7 years, at least in the J world. Some of you are new, and that's okay. But I would so appreciate to see most of you on my friends list thriving without dying or managing disease, or so skinny or too obese or addicted 27 years from now. Okay? And so that is why that's what I'm working for, is I have company of people I know today and in the future. I do not want to hang out with your kids knowing their future if they even survive. I want to see you in the future, not managing disease or dying suddenly. Okay? Because I know, if my husband decides to redirect, and we looked at what his retirement would be on his Social Security, and, if he works until he can make, a certain amount of money, let's say $2,000 a month, by the time he's 62, he's retiring at 62. Will he redirect by 62? Will he be able to survive the next, 50, like 12 years? Well, him 12, 13, 14 years, give or take. 62, I'm 49, going to be 50. So 50 is 10 years. 2 is 12 years. That's exactly the same amount of time that I'm married. And so, I'm hoping that my husband can stick around, but there's no guarantee. There's no guarantee. Because you have to be sick. You got to take time off. You can't be doing all this fishing and boating and hanging out with people and drinking and all that stuff. And if that's his lifestyle, okay, I'm not getting in the way of that. He's working for it. But I know eventually what's going to happen, and I'll be on my own. I'm going to have to take care of this house on my own, property on my own. And I want to know if somebody's out there that knows me, even like 27 years from now, that knows my background, that I kind of know and I can see and be familiar with, right? I want to see you in the future, not managing disease or dying suddenly. I would so appreciate having coffee or dinner with you in the future, if we can handle the ectoplasm, right? 27 years from now. And you regained the life you lost, because yes, when you have kids, you lost life. When you've had experiences, you lost life. When you've worked so hard your whole life, you lost life. People end up in the grave. And you know, you have evolved and you know how to evolve and change. I do not want strong people in my world of the future, because I see people say, oh, we need to make America strong again. I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? Okay, I want adaptable people who I can count on to be out there connected, sharing a common past. I have nothing in common with your kids, but I have something in common with all of you. That's what I'm working for. And it's purely selfish. Absolutely, I'm looking out for my own best interest. When the world is infertile, I want to see your ass. Well, not literally, but I want to see you. When the world's infertile in 2050, 27 years now, at least when the West is infertile, and like here in Ohio, is there a guarantee that people in my town here, 27 years from now, are going to be around? I would imagine that I'm going to see people who are looking in their 30s, looking like they're going to be in their 80s in the next 27 years. And here I am looking like this, fluctuating with the environment. When the frequencies change, I'll get hives and I'll release the demons, eat the food. As they are aging and degrading and completely done. Dying suddenly. Or whatever. And audience, I'll be almost 80 in 27 years. That's going to be interesting. No shit, I know. What am I? God, I hate doing math. All right, I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna use my calculator. And so what am I? I'm 59. No, I'm not 59. I'm 49. I'll be 50. Plus 27 equals 76. I'll be 76 in 27 years. Imagine being 76 and looking like this. Because as long as I have food, if I'm not being starved out, I have milk and meat and cheese and eggs. As long as I have food, I'll be okay. Oh, she'll be 52 in a couple of weeks. All right, yeah, okay. You're a few years older than me. All right, so yeah, in the last 50 years, the average sperm count have fallen by 50%. This isn't just happening in the US or Europe or Asia. It seems to be happening everywhere. If the current rate or decline continues, researchers conclude the average male sperm will fall so low that the typical guy in every advanced economy will be infertile by 2050. Harvard's Jorge Chavarro, a professor of nutrition and epidemiology, breaks down the data on the declining sperm counts and tells what it means, what might be causing it, what men can reasonably do to avoid it, and how bad it could get. Well, yeah, it's pot and all that stuff, but. And so then I said climate change and cannabis. Quick fertility leading to infertility, and it will happen so fast the male will not produce sperm, especially exposed to cannabis and other things over time, and how often they do the cannabis. And so, but even then, you don't want men so aggressively sexual, hunting women and then having children and paying child support. You know, that's what the curse was out here. If the guys weren't groomed for something seriously, I mean, well, yeah. No matter what, even in the Silicon Valley, if guys are hunting girls and then they don't get married, they're going to pay child support. But yeah, when guys here, I don't say here, everywhere, that has been exposed to the 1980s movies of Fast Times at Ridgemont High and 16 Candles, and they're having sex at 15, 16. Now they have these kids that are in their 20s right now or 30s, and you're like, geez. And so then, yeah, they're fertile and they have these children, and they're being plagued with child support. And yeah, there's some men out there still paying child support today. Okay? Because they've had a few kids because they're hormones. So you don't want your sons being so aggressively sexual that they inseminate everything. Because that's also the whole thing with the pot, the reefer madness. People, it's a love drug. and they turn into vampires, to demons. It's crazy. Okay? And when you, even if you don't do pot, and you may have before, but you're around people that do, you're breathing it all in, going into places. You may get a contact high. Okay? And so you have to be able to release those demons, because I'll be around people who smoke pot. It's legalized now here. I'll go to places where people are smoking pot, doing alcohol. And if it's legal, it's everywhere, you're going to breathe it in. How are you going to release those demons? How are you going to release those demons so you don't turn you into some little demon? So climate change and cannabis. Quick fertility leads to infertility, and it will happen so fast the male will not produce sperm, especially exposed to cannabis and other things over time. And when all of your society legalizes recreational pot and medicinal pot, you just have to survive your environment, and you won't be procreating children in the future. Okay? Because if the males are going to be infertile, then what are you going to do, female? You're going to go buy the sperm? And that's what's going to happen. When the males are infertile and they're not even around, which is the future, then the only way women can get pregnant is if they actually go and buy the sperm or find somebody somewhere to inseminate her. And I don't know how they do that. So that's why my world is so important. So fertility and infertility doesn't kill you. This is for you, J World. Marijuana will be everywhere. It is everywhere. That's predicting the future. What's going on right now, even what they did back in ancient Egypt. And when you think about people managing disease and becoming antibiotic resistant, and they're afraid of the pharmaceuticals turning to cannabis, this is what will cause the downward trend. And of course, all the immune system kill switches. Climate change, people afraid of food. That is why sperm counts will be down. Even the host, the male, men will not survive their drug addictions, and they won't conceive. Women in different areas will be used as baby mothers or the artificial wombs to populate the future and then die suddenly. And she will have a nice life, I guess, but she will die suddenly, because managing that disease of getting her life back from procreation will be too much. And that's what a lot of these mothers who've had a lot of kids will be facing. It'll be a lot to replace all that energy that you gave away to your children when you birthed them, okay? And so the system is not going back to cancer again. The other women will stay alive indefinitely, because people in the J world who are finally figuring some stuff out and they have the support system, some of you are going to survive this. Others, I hope you have the support system. I hope you can handle the exorcism. I really do. I'll tell you, it's not for the faint of heart. It's not. And so the system is not going back to cancer again, because they're going to have the immune system kill switches, the cancer kill switches. And so other women will stay alive indefinitely. So this is why there'll be a mass level infertility. So much fertility causing the attack of sperm count, coupled with all the mainstream prescription drugs. People are in pain and they're turning to natural means, and that includes cannabis. There is a body of evidence that supports this findings, and studies now suggest that the impact is multifactorial. The use of marijuana can lead to reduced sperm count, reduced sperm concentration, changes in sperm motility and morphology, hormone changes, reduction in libido and sexual performance, and reduced sperm viability. So, the fact that some of these guys are hot to trot, well, they need to release those demons, but it's also because, I don't know. Actually, you know what? It's interesting. You could be hot to trot and be shooting blanks. So then you need more pot to calm that hot to trot down as they're shooting blanks. And then there goes the male. He's done. He's done. But at least if he's shooting blanks, okay, maybe he can live. I don't know. Right? Indefinitely. But if he's now not hot to trot and shooting blanks, and then also just, deteriorating, well, there goes the male. And so when you're around people in society breathing in all the environment, everybody's affected. It is what it is. And the 1960s was a kickoff. Egypt knew. But then I was looking at stuff in the 1930s. I was studying, J. Edgar Hoover and all of that. And the 1960s was a kickoff. Egypt knew, sperm count down, infertility. Then the 1930s, reefer madness. And that's when I was studying Louis Armstrong and studying the jazz movement and studying where pot came from and the drug culture. And so, yeah, I remember smoking Mexican dirt weed when I was in California. And then it was green stuff. And then there's Pineapple Express from Hawaii. And then also the Africans, the ganja, those in different countries. The ganja whole, Rastafarian. the dreaded hair. People are thinking I was being racist, and I wasn't a couple months back when I was mentioning that you're wearing the costumes of someone who is dealing with alchemy. The dreads, that is a sign that you are some kind of spiritual shaman that is playing in the alchemy world, whether it's marijuana or other concoctions. That right there is a call sign. All the psychedelic outfits, the Earth Gaia mothers, and the dreaded hair. That tells you that you're in the marijuana world, you're in the alchemy world, you're in the concoctions, energy healing world, and you're developing demons in people if you're proliferating those things. And people, it's legal now, at least in Ohio, so, but I wasn't being racist. I already knew what was going on, and that's how I chased away so many empathics. So many empaths, all about love, oozing, sliming you with love, okay? That's a sure sign someone's under the influence of not only alchemy, but also cannabis. Cannabis is a love drug. Again. And people have pets, children. So 1930s reefer madness. It may have been happening since the late 1930s. What happened? The downward spiral of the sperm count. So it may have been happening since the late 1930s all the way through today to the 2010s, the last paper published that included in the meta-analysis. Okay? So yeah. If the African Americans back in the New Orleans jazz age was smoking so much pot, reefer madness, I'm sure they were measuring their sperm counts. All right. So then here's this. Reefer madness. All right. We're getting into some heavy stuff. The system told you a long time ago what their plans were. The 1930s was the beginning. The 1960s was the kickoff. Nobody is immune to any of this. Now you must survive this type of society. Reefer madness. Originally made as Tell Your Children and sometimes titled The Burning Question, Dope Addict, Doped Youth, and Love Madness. Okay, this is all the porn industry. Sexual Orientation is a 1936 American exploitation film about drugs revolving around the melodramatic events that ensue when high school students are lured by pushers to try marijuana. Upon trying it, they become addicted, eventually leading them to become involved in various crimes such as hit-and-run accidents, manslaughter, murder, conspiracy to murder, and attempted rape. While all this is happening, they suffer hallucinations, descend into insanity, associate with organized crime, and in one character's case, commit suicide. The film was directed by Louis J. Gassner and featured a cast of mainly little-known actors. And then you look at Fast Times at Ridgemont High, Spicoli. You look at all, like the Cheech and Chong, Pineapple Express. Just go to your Netflix and look at all the movies around reefer and marijuana and the cultivation of marijuana, the legalization of it, the controversy around it, all the health and medicinal effects of it, the marijuana and the drugs in the Hollywood and the music industry, acting industry, even in Wall Street. I remember even dating someone that was doing E a long time ago, and we were going into these clubs to go rave, and he worked in Wall Street, and people were doing so many drugs in some of these bathrooms in some of these places, and it wasn't like regulated really, because if you're making money for the government and the world, they're not going to touch you unless it's that bad. But if you're poor and doing drugs, and you're just, if you're poor doing drugs and maybe there's crime going on, you're going to be sitting in jail. Because there's no return on the investment for the government for you to be addicted, taken from society. But hey, if you're making money and paying your taxes and your kids are relatively okay and whatever, they're not going to say a damn word. That's why it's not, when I watched that movie last night about the grass is greener, and that lady, the activist lady, she's a black activist, and she had the little head turban and stuff, and she was saying that the reason why our brothers were put in jail and sitting in there because it's all racism. The way that they were attacking the talking about the hippies and the black people and targeting them around the drug culture, it was because were they making money for society? And they weren't touching the Wall Street Caucasians in upper middle class America. Well, yeah, if you're not making money for the system, they're going to target the hippies. They're sitting around out there in their love vans, making love, not war, and not doing shit for society, or committing crimes and getting people addicted, but no one's making money for society over there in impoverished, ghetto. And so, yeah, they're not going to touch behind the gates because they're paying their taxes. And so, yeah, being poor does not pay. Being poor and addicted does not pay. But if you are addicted and rich, it pays until people cannot handle that lifestyle and they descend into madness. Okay. And so 1930s reefer madness to 2030 depopulation via sex, drugs, music, and family. 100 years to change society. That was the plan all along. Now I'm speculating. Do I really know? No. America is the last greatest experiment. Good luck trying to survive it. The programming runs deep. I had the hives and I was just typing. Okay. So you're seeing now what the hives do for me. They give me intellectual capability. They give me mental clarity. They give me the motivation to go and research the things that I don't know about and answer my own questions, right? So you have alcohol on one end causing domestic violence and car accidents, etc., to reefer madness. Prohibition and reefer madness, laugh out loud. Geez, nationwide prohibition lasted from 1920 till 1933. The 18th Amendment, which illegalized the manufacture, transportation, and sale of alcohol, was passed by the U.S. Congress in 1917. And then, of course, Al Capone bootlegged all that, and then everything turned around. Now the government is making money from it. Is making money and regulating it. And people are still descending into madness and chaos and addiction and domestic violence and, oh, Lordy. Okay? And so Reefer Madness was circulated around 1936, that movie. Take it away, take pot away, everyone wants what they can't have. So alcohol is controlled, weed is controlled. Weed was loosely regulated. Now that everyone's suffering, most are addicted to weed, spirits, and music. We do not stand a chance. Good luck purging out those demons. J-World, sit back and watch. Eat popcorn, it's a shit show. Stay off the roads. Many are under the influence. More accidents. Even those Northeast students that died over here, in Northeast Ohio, Tuskegee Valley kids, it made it to the news, the national news. I'm like, holy crap. People say, oh, that stuff happens all the time, accidents. I listen to the national news like every day, every night before I go to bed. I listen to NBC Nightly News and PBS and Frontline. And when my town out here, Tuskegee Valley, not too far away from here, when they're caught in a car, in a semi, rear-ending them, causing 6 people to die and 57 injured, it makes the national news, that ought to tell you what you're in for with people under the influence. And you have no idea what happened, what was going on with that truck driver. I'm not saying he was under the influence. But when people are dying suddenly or having a heart attack or stroke or not paying attention for whatever reason, and what would not make you pay attention causing something to rear end, and was it the bus's fault? Did the bus just stop all of a sudden or rear end the front car first and then it stopped and then caused the truck to rear end the back end? Who the hell knows if it was the beginning that caused the accident or the end? So that's where all the investigation. But regardless, if the bus driver's not paying attention and rear ends somebody in front of them, or the person in front of them just stops automatically for some reason and they have their own issues and didn't warn. But I don't know, man. I don't know. Yeah, they'd have to do that investigation because it's a chain reaction of either front to back or back to front. Either way, they're going to have to do the investigation. So that's like writing on the wall, okay? And so, yeah, more accidents. More accidents. Now you really have to pay attention where you're driving, who you're driving with, who's in charge. And I wouldn't want to trust mass travel now. Nope. And so I was saying yesterday, the long tone beep, hives, 59 and sunny. I feel great making the connections. And I was, right? I'm typing out the connections right now. Once you study history, you will figure out unless you change and consider my info. Okay? And so your kids will have no future. So unless you change and consider my info, your kids will have no future. And even your future, moms and dads out there is questionable. I will be honest, 27 years goes by very quickly, and all the Died Suddenlies are not ending anytime soon. Actually, they're increasing, regardless of what you blame it on. And they will increase in acceleration. Okay? Already, I mean, I don't hang out with too many people. It's the elderly right now who are dealing with stuff. It's people who are like midlife or getting diagnosed. But it's the elderly that are going in, and with all of the feelings of hives and the frequency changes, you can only imagine more kids, more people in their midlife getting diagnosed, feeling the effects of their memories being cannibalized, chewed up. And so, yeah, the Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Again, I've watched that before when it was censored, so I didn't know the impact it had on sexuality until I watched the uncensored version. Oh my God. They're basically teaching the girls how to have sex, how to do sex. Like literally. And then you have Spicoli, Sean Penn, just glamorizing being a doped up surf head. The movie and the cast of characters, and then Phoebe Cates' boobs causing the guys to go crazy. That was these guys in Gen X, on one of these Gen X groups. They're like, yeah, the best movie was Fast Times, and Phoebe Cates, when she took off her front bathing suit, oh my God, that was the end for me. Yeah, no shit. That was the intention. That was the end for you. The movie and cast of characters that destroyed a generation. The doped out surf heads was a programming, yikes, turning high schoolers into love sex addicts. Breakfast Club, more in your face, the programming. 16 Candles, even more so. It's a generational programming, and no religion or political thought process is immune to the programming. None. It is bad. And once you study history, it is bad. Everything is in plain sight. The system is telling you. Even American Graffiti, when the whole 1950s, and the girls were trying to look all, trying to be all respectable, but they were kissing their boyfriends behind the pillars in the dark alleys, in the back of the car seats. Oh, but everyone's like Beaver Cleaver. Everything was behind closed doors, or it wasn't totally put out there. And then you had the Kinsey Institute studying sexuality. And of course, Hollywood, old Hollywood, Cary Grant was gay, Rock Hudson was gay, playing the hetero. And they had their beards. What's the beards? The women that they were supposed to marry and have sex with, to give them that front that they are hetero and respectable. And so then later on, oh, you're not respectable now that we found out that you're gay. See, 1950s was contrived. All the suburbia, everything was going on in 1940s, 50s. It was planned. It was seriously planned. And so I said, yeah, right here's this chick. She's cute, 16-year-old. I think she's 16. Died suddenly. Julie Black, rest in peace. Yeah, age 16. She looks like she's in her 20s. These kids look so much older than they are. Rest in peace, Julia Black. Julia Black was a junior in orchestra program at Harrison School for the Arts. Unexpectedly passed away due to sudden cardiac arrest caused by pericardial infection. So when you have the change and growth out there, and it causes so much growth to the point where it actually causes an infection and sepsis and or a heart attack or a stroke. And of course, if she's not used to blowing her nose, and she already disabled her immune system up here to blow and down there to release. Like yesterday, I actually had yellow diarrhea. I had to urgently go to the restroom yesterday. After I ate, I urgently went to the restroom. I was like, and I also remember the hives I told you about, right? I went to the restroom, and it was all yellow. It was all, what does it call it? It was the angry humor. The angry humor. The yellow. Remember the four humors? You had the sanguine was red. The black was like melancholy. The yellow was the angry. The white was neutral. Yeah, so I had the angry hormone come out of my body because there was climate change. I had the hives, the growth. Oh yeah, you'll finally figure out what's going on when you allow your body to actually work the way it's supposed to. But if you don't know how to read what's being released from your body, or how to read and understand the pain that you have, and how to feed your body and release the demons, not using J juice or everything else all the time, but you use the J juice for a second to catalyze. But are you prepared to deal with heart attacks and strokes and things that could be in your background? That's why you have to talk to a doctor if you're under doctor's care, or have heart issues and brain issues and other issues. And so, yeah, I mean, again, I've had the PMDD and didn't have any major surgeries or heart conditions or major neurological conditions. And so that was how I was able to get through it. And I am type O, blood type O. So, yeah, she died from cardiac arrest. Died age 16, October 27th, Lakeland, Florida. And so I said one last thing, which really isn't one last thing, but I am like, I think I'm done. No, I'm not. I knew marijuana was a major part of the depopulation agenda. I just did not know in what aspect. Infertility makes complete sense, along with climate change and alcohol abuse and family, each generation procreating, making each generation of kids weaker and weaker. That was the whole thing. That was the intention. They wanted you to either be so sexual and you're releasing yourself but not having kids, or if you're going to have kids, have a bunch of them. Have 19 kids. And you see what was going on. 19 kids, at least 1 or 2 or 5 of them are going to be criminals, and then the mother is not going to survive. The father will, obviously. And so you're going to see that genetic line, and people who are even too weak to have kids, so skinny, can't afford to. Imagine these girls today that are so skinny, that are just now getting married at 20, 21, 22. They've had issues with scoliosis and whatever, and then she's probably going to be like those Steel Magnolias where that girl got pregnant and she died after having that pregnancy. Imagine these girls now that are so skinny having children. Even one child could break her or could completely kill her. That's the thing. That having children now with these girls and guys the way they are would actually destroy them. That was the intention. If you want to have kids, fine. We'll just have you keep procreating and procreating. And then each generation is weaker and weaker. 3-generation rule. Okay? So I knew it, which is why you do not push your daughters and sons into marriage and family nightmares. There's some pretty sick individuals out there too. And who's to say your daughter or son will survive some of the guys and girls out there looking for someone to let out their aggression on? The environment is getting more activated. And I felt it yesterday. I was going off. Oh my God. I feel it, and I see the accidents and died suddenly, the sorrows and the anger and the depression and violence. Help them save themselves. Do them a favor. Set them free from all of those expectations of love and family and sex and relationship and all that. Okay? 27 years of died suddenlies, shootings, violence, rape, anger, hunger, trauma. Is that the future you want for your child? Son or daughter turning into extremists looking to pound someone in so many ways? Some men need to go and let their frustrations out, so they find the nearest cutest chick and he lets loose on her, whether it's in the bedroom in so many different ways, or he beats her up because he's no one else to do that, and she's a punching bag for him. There are women who actually are that. They're the fuck bag for somebody or a punching bag for somebody. And you have no idea what's in the background of the girls out there and of the guys, and what they're going to use your sons or daughters for to relieve their own stress. I've dealt with so much shit that I dealt with, stuff that I probably shouldn't have, but I did, and I tempered all that. And that's how you set yourself free, is when you know that's what's out there, and you know how to transition from that, because that is mainstream. What these guys do and girls do out there behind closed doors has been mainstream, and no one talks about it because everyone's too afraid to be the weird one to talk about it. And some guys and some girls get mad when we talk about it because that's what they do behind closed doors. They don't want that challenged. But yes, there are some sex demons out there, and your kids and your sons and daughters could be used as a tool for somebody else and may not even survive that situation. It's bad out there. You think you had it bad, your children will have it worse, because now with the environment so aggressive, the demons are coming out, and men and women are more cunning in how they get their mate and what they normalize in a relationship. And they look good on paper. And so these parents were so fucking oblivious. They're like, oh yeah, this guy looks good on paper. He went to Yale and Harvard. He didn't realize that he has a whole basement full of contraptions and all these things that are so evil Oh, but he looks good on paper. And if she tries to leave him, he wants to go after her. I mean, I'm telling you, you don't know what kind of shit you're entering your kids into just because some dude looks good on paper. You have no idea what that girl's going to have to experience or what that guy's going to have to experience behind closed doors. That's why you don't get them in those situations. So you think you had it bad? Your children will have it worse. If they even survive. That's why I was going like, oh my God. So then I say, I'm not a puritanical moralist. This is pure survival and quality and quantity of life. When they recut the film Reefer Madness to be more satire in the 1970s, people didn't take it seriously. They were used to their environment and community descending into madness. They had all the activism, the civil rights, all the shootings and the rape and the serial killers. So it was all normal, right? When you have to deal with someone like, Jeffrey Dahmer and Manson and Ted Bundy and, what is it? Charles Ng, and then the Night Stalker, and then, Richard Allen Ramirez or Richard Allen Davis, who kidnapped Polly Klaas. And so when that's normalized, right? Something like the 1970s or 60s, 70s movie recut, the 1930s movie recut 1970s, Reefer Madness, it's like, oh, it's a parody, it's satire. And so they don't take it seriously. Even though it's in your face and it's true, people don't take it seriously. And people are run by demons. Choose your poisons, right? And so you thought it was bad back in the 1960s, 70s, 80s. Yes, it was bad. Yes, it will be bad, and people won't survive it. Very short life. The 80s, and it was proof how bad the drug culture was in the 60s and 70s. Excess, greed, and of course, rampant reproduction, getting those kids hooked on pharmaceuticals and prescription drugs and cannabis and cigarettes, so mainstream. So instead of madness we are descending into, it will be a little bit of that on a controlled basis, but you'll see the body count go higher. That's all the died suddenly. Yeah, they've given you an avenue. Go blame the V's. Okay. That was so contrived. That was intentional. So while people are dying suddenly, they're all blaming the V, the whole anti-V campaign, the anti-GMO, the anti-air, anti-fluoride, anti-this, all those campaigns was a smokescreen. So that way, when the environment becomes so aggressive and they already have the weaknesses plus the addictions and the parents are fucking oblivious and these kids are dying suddenly, they can have somewhere to go and blame, right? But you don't realize that, it was generations of weaknesses that were bred into ever since the 1930s. It was way before your time. But at least you have someone to blame, right? And so, So what it says, marijuana, weed with the roots in hell, smoke that gets in youth's eye, lust, crime, sorrow, misery. What happens at marijuana parties? Weird orgies, wild parties, right? And what else to say? Public enemy number one, women cry for it, men will die for it. Oh yeah, absolutely. A daring theme, reefer madness, adults only. Oh, geez. Okay. The golden age of the exploitation film, the 1936 drug scare cult classic, Reefer Madness. All right. Sex madness. Dope created ecstasy avalanche into frightful perversions. Oh, I can only imagine. Then you got all the anal sex, all the big, huge contraptions that you buy at the sex stores, the Adam and Eve, the adults only stores. Oh yeah, the porn industry. Douglas Fairbanks' 1916 cocaine classic. Then there's the cocaine stuff. Drug crazed, abandoned, youthful marijuana victims. What actually happens? The sweet pill that makes life bitter. Adults only. They were telling you. Oh, they were telling you. Oh, geez. It's so, it's funny, but it's not. Okay. What else? There's that. Burning weed with its roots in hell. America's newest narcotic menace. A puff of smoke started her on her way. Reefer madness, deadly scourge that drags our children into the quagmires of degradation. Pictures will be shown to adults only. I can only imagine. 80 years of reefer madness. The truth about marijuana parties takes you through hell. Reefer madness, the torture that never stops. Half-baked. Yeah. Dobbs Ferry Public Library. Jeez. Fight marijuana. Reefer madness. What is it? Oh, God, this is crazy. The movie musical Reefer Madness, a jokey toke musical treat. Get ready to tap into the splashy, spoofy movie musical. Yeah, that's how they're... Oh, my God. Deadly, digitally enhanced addiction. Okay. Jeez. Let's see what else. Weed from the Devil's Garden. A major influence in forming the attitudes that led to the present legal situation regarding marijuana. Hilarious when viewed from the other side of the generation gap. A gap in the film did so wish to create. Weed from the Devil's Garden. A one moment of bliss, a lifetime of regret. Reefer madness. Hunting a thrill, the inhaled drag of concentrated sin. Wake up, America. Here's a roadside weed that's fast becoming a national highway. Oh, God. This is the hilarious, uncut, original version of Reefer Madness. Public enemy number one, the quagmire that drags women down. The Fire Sign Theater. Don't be misled by substitutes. The 1936 classic largely responsible for the marijuana laws today, now a fantastic comedy. Oh, I'm sure. The humor is everywhere, frightening as it's funny. Dope created ecstasy, avalanche into frightful perversions, makes beasts of men and women. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Rebranding Reefer Madness without shame. See them smoke, watch them. The little angels, lettuce. Jeez. And then it shows the actual actors in the film. Reefer Madness, cocaine friends, right? Crime, prostitution, suicide, adult only. Weed from the Devil's Garden. Okay. Devil's Harvest. A good girl until she lights a reefer. The truth about marijuana. The smoke of hell. Reefer Madness. I'm not reading all that. Damaged lives. Test tube babies. The guilty parents. No one under high school is age admitted. Warning. A true story. A true life story. A moment of delirious freedom. Cold bare facts for the broad-minded father and mothers of today. Revealing, exciting, daring, frank. Marijuana. Weird orgies. Wild parties. Unleashed passions. They're telling you. They told you. Reefer madness. Sex madness. Okay, what else? Then you have the Big Lebowski. You know, pot people like to watch the Big Lebowski. Then you have the ancients. Then you have Cheech and Chong. And the ancients, the Egyptians. Then you have the Asians. Effects of cannabis on your body. And America's all shrouded in pot. And there you go. See, that's some crazy shit, man. That's some crazy shit. So then I did a little bit of my own commentary about The Grass is Greener. And so Grass is Greener follows the hip-hop legend Fab Five. Okay, I'm not going to read that. So you can watch it. My theory is, so if the plant is good for cancer, relatively good for cancer, maybe that's the reason why men become infertile, because it's attacking then the new life. They weren't ready for the people to be fertile yet, so they played both sides of the fence. After prohibition regulates alcohol, criminalized weed until they understood how they could control fertility. Then the Georgia Guidestones, 80s, influenced by the 1960s. Could I say the system knew what they were planning as far as UN Agenda 21 or 2030? What did they know and when did they know it? So yeah, the war on cannabis was still the need, was that they still needed fertility, and so they incrementally legalized it in different places and studied the people. And you know, California was a huge petri dish. Oh yeah, I smoked pot when I was like 19. I mean, I smoked so much that I thought I was addicted, but I wasn't. It's all relative. I wasn't smoking every day. I was just like, it's good to have sex with, you know, and that was the thing. And I knew that's what led, that was probably a lot of my PMD too, was that. And plus being trained to be hot and all, I mean, telling you, California, man, but it's even here in Ohio. It's everywhere. Okay? And so yeah, I smoked pot when I was 19, and then, the last 7 years I dealt with my dog and other stuff, and so I was on and off, and then finally the last year and a half, almost 2 years, is totally, I don't want any alcohol. I mean, I did do the alcohol in August, but I'm not doing that again because that was bad. So no more alcohol, no more drugs, no more cigarettes. I hadn't smoked a cigarette in I don't know how long. So yeah, so when the system speeds up the atmosphere and chronic pain sufferers try to slow down their body, yeah, they're going to be smoking pot. Development of microbial offspring, microbes, and over time men will become infertile. Yes, so drugs slow down or speed up your body relative to the environment, and when people get caught up in habits and the system changes the atmospheric conditions, it also changes how those drugs affect the person. And the outcomes could be very different. Boys or men will get their girlfriends pregnant very early, also have their own health conditions, which cause them to be fertile to begin with, will be dealing with chronic conditions in the future, and most likely not have any more children. Their child is exposed to the culture of cannabis and environment of ectoplasm. And then these kids become infertile. In a very slow environment, disease develops fertility and potentially families. Over time, there's a menopause and erectile dysfunction, and then not too long after that, death, heart attacks, and strokes. In a highly accelerated environment, on a third generation who has been procreated rampantly the last 50 years, a few kids might squeeze out. There might be a few colds and flus, but any aggressive disease will turn into a died suddenly. Is there an environmental algorithm and massive use of cannabis that makes all the conditions right for an acceleration of mass casualty event? Well, using marijuana regularly may raise the risk of heart failure, strokes, heart attack, even after accounting for other cardiovascular risks such as type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, or obesity, according to the 2 preliminary studies to be presented at the American Heart Association. But on the other side, you could be smoking so much pot and becoming very skinny because those microbes are tearing down your infrastructure. If one didn't have so much diversity within, they wouldn't need to turn to any drugs. If you open your system, you wouldn't get heart attacks or strokes, then you might not need to get high. So a person could open up their system and survive smoking pot. They probably wouldn't want to smoke a pot to begin with, or they would have an open system. Or if they have an open system. Oh, geez. They would have opened an open system. Jesus Christ. The high would be short. So if I were to smoke pot right now, it probably wouldn't be, I'd probably have to smoke a lot of it to get the high. And if I did get a high, it would be short-lived because I would have to, then my immune system would kick in, develop hives or something else, and cordon off those toxins and release a demon. So why would I get myself sick? Why would I do that purposely? Okay? And so the high would be short. It wouldn't be worth it. Let me tell you, being sick from an evolution, it could be drugs, alcohol, or something else, is not worth it. Being sick just because you're out in the environment, okay, you can't help but be in the environment. But being sick because you took something like a drug or an alcohol or a cigarette, yeah, why would you do that? And so, in fact, men who use marijuana more than once a week have nearly a 30% reduction in sperm count and sperm concentration. And this has been shown to last 5 to 6 weeks even after they stop using marijuana. All right? And so, there's that. And so, when I'm watching that show, Grass is Greener, and you hear Snoop Dogg and and Cypress Hill and all the different musical artists from the 1990s, 1980s, even the 2000s, and they're all like defending pot and smoking pot on stage and everything. And they're saying, yeah, it gives me artistic expression, no different than even back in the 1930s, Louis Armstrong in the Jazz Age over there in New Orleans. It gives people artistic expression. Trauma and drug use and alcohol and sex and family develops artistic expression and innovation. Okay? And so that's why the system eventually will go to 500 million, but you're going to watch now. You're going to watch Africa, Asia, all the different huge continents go through their own descension into madness and innovation and creativity and social constructs and sexual orientation. And maybe you might see some pretty cool animals like flying dragons and stuff. Okay? And so it seems that artistic expression comes from trauma and drugs. What will happen in the future when people stop being traumatized and stop being under the influence? At this point, we don't know, because even those who are not under the influence and not actively being traumatized, like me, lives in a traumatizing world who are still under the influence. So guilt by association, yeah, creativity is possible. So the fact that you have let go of all your demons, you're not actively being traumatized right now, because you've lessened all of those influences. You're still going to be seeing things going on. You're watching your friends and family drop like flies. You're watching the world go through their own bullshit. That's traumatizing of itself, and that will lead to creativity. So guilt by association. Okay, so they're like, oh, I get it. This is 13 hours ago. Oh, I get it. Men will be infertile in the future, and the women will be hot, causing them to release their seeds, and no babies, right? Women will live on. Men will spend themselves out of existence. Man will die off if they don't stay alive today and stay alive. Fertile men with high testosterone getting with fertile women with high testosterone are developing the boys. When the men aren't fertile, the stronger girls will stay alive, but they will tempt a man to release himself. That's called the porn industry. Men won't lose their sexuality. They will just lose their ability to procreate. They'll just shoot blanks. That's how the man will spend himself out of existence. They really have to get control of their hormones if they want to carry on the male gender, gendy, or else the hot chicks and their wives will suck the life out of them, or the hot men will destroy each other, right? Because even in the LGBTQ industry, the men are highly sexual. And there goes the male gender. Even the gay men are destroying themselves, each other, through that. That's how they will become extinct. The women will destroy men, and the men will destroy each other. So not even just the gay men, but also the hetero men, because they're back and forth exchanging stuff. They're not allowing each other to change. They're so rigid in their social constructs. So even the hetero men will destroy other hetero men. And you can't stop it. If it is what it is, you can't stop it. People are going to stop it themselves. Just like when someone's in domestic violence, you can't convince them to leave. They have to want to leave, right? And so I said, oh yeah, history of cannabis and endocannabinoid system. So you can read the history of cannabis. It doesn't mean that it was right. It doesn't mean that the societies back then weren't going through their own Babylonian type of situation. It just shows you that, yes, there is a history of marijuana and probably why all the great resets. So this has been a human problem for thousands of years. And I will tell you this. This probably was one of the demons I released the last 7 years. And I'm sure one of my sicknesses, the aggressive sicknesses, was releasing the weed demons. Because I did smoke a lot of pot in my younger years. Not a lot relative to other people in California. I wasn't awake and baked because I had to go to work. I had to perform. I had to do drug tests. Okay? And so, yeah, when you're trying to go from one job to another and you're getting drug tested and in the military too, it's not going to lend itself to getting high every day. Alcohol, yeah, I did a lot of alcohol, not a lot. And then I couldn't. The hangovers were just like insane. Okay? So I'm sure I released the alcohol demon, the cigarette demon, the weed demon, the alchemy demons from all the supplements and the prescription drugs and the over-the-counter drugs and all the herbal remedies. Everything I did the last 12 years as far as trying to release my demons or, do stuff to help my PMDD. That was so many demons I had to release. And so, yeah. So everything about the movie Reefer Madness is true. Just because your society has always descended into madness doesn't mean it had to. The 1950s may have looked so sanitized until the system brought everything out in the open via movies and everything else, right? Even looking into the world of Hollywood. Well, you see what's going on with the mamas and papas. What happened to one of the girls? She was raped and molested by her dad, incest. And he gave off some really good music in the mamas and papas. Others, you have Elvis marrying or dating a 16-year-old. But see, remember all that stuff, it's what gave the innovation, the excellent music. The demons are brought out in people. Music, drugs, alcohol, sex brings out the demons. Do I sound like a puritanical, Christian? No, I'm not even a Christian because I don't want to be laying down my life for somebody to have them walk all over me. I'm not a Christian. I was raised Jewish. That's pretty much it. I'm not trying to, I understand empathy with a little bit of logic attached to it, so you understand where the empathy comes from. It's not just blind empathy and love. It's like, holy shit, I see the writing on the wall. Oh my God, but you have a choice. It's not for me to go and convert you. Okay? And so, yeah, everything was behind closed doors, and women were enslaved back in the 50s. The alcohol demons and the marijuana demons are so hard to release. You can keep them at bay, but for only so long. Then they shapeshift. And then the demons turn on the host. It's a brutal way to go, but the system is trying to make it easier through marijuana and other drugs. It's out of their hands. Now, no, it's trying to stop the bleeding. Now it's trying to stop the bleeding. That's what the system is doing. That's why it's legal here in Ohio, and the temperature is being raised. More growth, more died suddenly, and you're going to have to deal with it. Okay. All right, here's this. The 1980s drug culture, enforcement and racism. And here's the thing about selective enforcement. Even back in the 80s, if you weren't making the system a shit ton of money, you would be arrested. You could not be a drug addict and do nothing for society and take from society. If you were to be a drug addict back in the 80s and 70s, the rich people did not ever really get punished unless it was a major trafficking, right? Like Scarface. Poor people who are drug addicts do get arrested because then crime goes up, and that's why they sat in jail. And so the reason why the Wall Street Caucasians weren't sent to jail but the black population was, in fact, the Wall Street Caucasians were still making the system a lot of money despite their addictions and drug usage, and most of them paid their taxes. Money was the root of all types of perceived racism. It is a crime to be poor. And so if you are poor, you can't break the law. I'm not saying racism doesn't exist, because it does, but around the drug culture, if you're not making the system a lot of money, you're sitting in jail. Now look at the music industry and acting industry. Drugs are prevalent in Hollywood, in the music industry. Okay? Remember that. You saw Britney Spears had to be always doing stuff. They were giving her different things like lithium and whatever. Snoop Dogg is obvious about it. Cypress Hill, obvious about it. All of all the actors and actresses do some type of it, whatever it is. Okay? Which means now you know how the system uses people, squeezes every bit of resources out of them until they cry uncle. And even though I say addiction is a rich man's disease, it's all relative. You could be poor in America and be drug addicted and not be rich, but live in America, you would be rich to somebody else because you have opportunity. Now with this legalization of marijuana in Ohio, if you're working and they do random drug tests on your profession, you're not supposed to get high. Other places don't care what you do. They just want you to go to work every day or chill out. You all know alcoholism can be perceived as worse. I mean, when you have to choose between two devils, right? The system would rather have people who are high on pot at home, not behind a wheel, versus a raging alcoholic beating their kids and their family, like what happened in the 1950s. The pot is a love drug. And right now, they want everyone hanging out together, all in love with each other. It makes the death process easier. People are all loving until they die suddenly, or you challenge them. And then the demons come out. And so I say, you inhale the devil's lettuce, you might be giving birth to demons. This is not satire. Alchemy is what descended society into madness. Marijuana is one of the biggest, most influential alkaloids. And the people defend their marijuana like, oh my God, this is not your fault. It has been going on for thousands of years. You just happen to be a victim of ancient history. Once you're aware you have a choice, even the pharmaceutical market uses the alkaloids, developing different demons in people, but very similar. There is nobody in the world who is immune to the remedies market, and their children are affected. All children are born from alchemy of demons. Some are more deadlier than others. It is possible to release the demons and survive the purge process, but it is like a biological or exorcism. It's not for everybody. I'm living proof you can release those demons, but it is a bitch, and it is painful, and it's a progressive release process. I've smoked on and off marijuana the last 7 years, and finally done the last 2 years. And I have no desire for marijuana, cigarettes, or alcohol at all whatsoever. And so you saw me fighting that battle of cigarettes. That was an extraordinary battle. The demon was a bitch to release. But I went to that party and I did drink those 3 shots of alcohol back in August, but I didn't smoke any cigarettes. I didn't do any pot. I just blew up. You saw what I looked like in some of the pictures. I showed you a picture. I looked like a freaking chipmunk. Like, seriously, I looked like Earth Mother. And that was all my immune system causing the replication to manage those little children. And then I had the hives the next day. And then I ate too much Jell-O and had so much heartburn. And I had to release those Oh my God. Because I got all into the, oh my God, collagen to gelatin to collagen. Oh my God, I'm gonna get strength in my whole body with so much collagen. No, your body can only deal with so much. You can't overwhelm your body with acids. Turn into heartburn. So I'm not suffering anymore. My dog was a source of suffering. My own immune system was a source of suffering. That's why I don't want an animal. I can't bear the suffering watching it die or having to put it down. The cost of having an animal outweighs the benefits, so I don't get pets. Some of you, that's fine if you do. I don't care. I just can't. I mean, I'm telling you, when my dog was going through her bullshit, I probably had, I probably had smoked smoked a little bit just to deal with it. And it was just like, fuck. That was a suffering like you would not believe. Watching her go through that process, that was a suffering. It was horrible. It was the most horrible thing ever. And even if I gave her all the medication, just all the scares of then having to put them on medication progressively to the point where then they are suffering so no medication works and they're suffering, then you have to put them down. That's, I can't do it. I can't do it. If you have the stomach for it, great. I don't have the stomach for it. And I'm not going to put myself through that kind of torture anymore. So I don't get pets. Okay? So I get my very short Facebook reel oxytocin boost watching other people have pets. Okay? So when you have a pet and you put your pet on there, great. Gives me a boost of, oh, love. Okay, that's so cute. And then, okay, move on to the next thing. So I don't get addicted to the oxytocin, the love hormone from animals, children, and addictions. When there is so much suffering you can't control, that's why marijuana and alcohol are so prevalent. Everyone is suffering astronomically, and misery loves company. I'm serious. Misery loves company. When the people you love are suffering and you're not strong enough to deal with the suffering, that's when people use. That's why releasing the suffering out of your world that is voluntary is paramount. Okay, again, it's a transition process. You're not going to be like releasing everyone out of your world all at once. Remember, you have built a dependency on the people that are in your world, that are around you. There's some that are easier to let go than others, but like with the situation I was in, it was releasing the 60,000 person group and then not having anyone next to me, and then only having, then having a 350 person group, and then having my website, and then releasing that, and then, dealing with all the trolls and all the, the journalists, and releasing all of that. And then it was my dog and releasing that. And then it was other people in my husband's world and my world, and I was releasing that. I'm telling you, it was a scaling back. Holy crap, I saw something there. What I saw. A scaling back of the demons that you have to release, and it's progressive transition. And it doesn't happen all at once. It happens in stages, okay? So don't be mad or don't feel bad that you don't have all those things that are in your world, giving you the love and all that stuff still around. Because remember, it's a transition. And when you release the demons in here, you release the demons out there, then fall away. And so when you don't suffer as much and you don't have children and so many people around you suffering astronomically, there is no need for alcohol and drugs. Parasitic energies love addictions, and that's what's inside your immune system. And that's out there in your family, friends, and group associations. It's a very hard loop to release yourself from. It's easier to be clean and sober when you're on your own, away from all the influences and the suffering around you. Suffering can be a route to strength and also cause people to descend into the gates of hell if they don't figure out how to release those demons. Parents who are addicted to herbal remedies, giving them so much energy or something to calm them down is going to take a lot from you to release yourself from that demon and that addiction. You might not even survive your lifestyle. That's why you need a partner to help you out if they're even on board. The jail of lifestyle might be people's undoing. And so it shows you the ectoplasm of that girl with the little goblin kids, crotch goblins, around her. And so then she's releasing the ectoplasm or breathing it in. You can't tell if it's going in or she's going out. And so it's all those dysmorphic looking limbs and heads of, spirits of children. And so I said, when you inhale the devil's lettuce, you might be giving birth to demons. Okay. And so I could not say what I'm saying today 3 years ago. I would be so attacked. And I was. I had some people on my Facebook from the conspiracy world so heavily into the pot, and they were going by and doing drive-by troll messages. You're stupid. You're this. Get out of here. Pot is good. Here, endo-cannabis. I mean, I'm telling you, they were defending. I'll tell you that the whole defense around pot and marijuana is such a strong industry. That ought to tell you that's the depopulation agenda, when the system has given you ammunition to defend a drug that is so destructive to not only society, but also your immune system, to your family, to yourself. When the system is giving you ammunition to defend that lifestyle, and they've enlisted minions who are so addicted that have proven everything that in that 1936 film, that's the depopulation agenda. And so I cannot say what I'm saying today 3 years ago. because I wouldn't be able to provide you the evidence around the infertility of the future. And people say like, oh, they're trying to wipe out, the New World Order is trying to wipe out humans. No, you're wiping yourself out. When you have these articles that say, low sperm count, possible infertility, and they're like, oh yeah, that's big pharma, that's the propaganda, that's government propaganda, trying to scare you away from natural remedies so they can sell you oncology or some shit. When people have those kind of belief systems and they're so anti-government, yeah, how do you argue against that? How do you, when you're living in those worlds of trying to remedy disease and disappear your suffering? So I could not say what I'm saying 3 years ago. I would be so attacked. But now that you're seeing many people around you drop like flies or die suddenly from heart attacks and strokes because the alchemy market and the alkaloids, and yes, even pot and alcohol, you might examine my information a little closer. You saw my journey around cigarettes. Remember I was smoking on Facebook? Remember I even had a WordPress account aside from my other website that was defending cigarettes, that you don't die from cigarettes, you die from the cancer. Well, doesn't the cigarettes give you cancer? You can release the demon. See, and I don't know, I said some stuff that I don't even remember what I said like word for word, but it was around that word. Yeah, it's not that cigarettes aren't cancer causing, it's something I forget what it is. But yeah, but here's the thing, I mean, it's been proven that cigarettes could cause cancer. Doesn't mean you die from it. It just means that you have to release those demons and then you release the addiction. Okay, but you don't have to die from cancer, you don't die from cigarettes. But if you don't have those traumas, memories, and the suffering, then you wouldn't be smoking. And you wouldn't have to develop another entity like a cancer, right? And so I was doing the J juice, releasing the demons, right? Or curing myself since I was so skinny. And I was still suffering because I was getting attacked. Remember, I was still getting attacked, so I was still suffering. And so those cigarettes were like a crutch to help me manage that suffering. I had a dog, I had trolls, I had a group, I had my own research to deal with. I had all these things going on. And yeah, smoking was the thing that I was doing. And I was able to justify it. And I wasn't going to die from it. I already knew I wasn't going to die from smoking. But you saw how easy it is to justify every addiction out there, okay? And so I saw my journey around cigarettes, the demon of addiction, no matter how accepted they are, and some are more accepted than others, all stems from out-of-control suffering, trauma, and the need for company and lack of future purpose. And so when you think you're supposed to die someday, people will either do what they're trained to do, right, and perform. And so you have these little Asian kids in China who don't have cigarettes around them, probably too many drugs unless it's pharmaceuticals, and they're being trained to do stuff, in China. And so and so if you think you're supposed to die someday, people will either do what they're trained to do and perform, or they get lost in the addiction and pleasure, replacing one addiction with the other and playing judgment game. Heavy narcotic addicts who kick their opiate habits, turning to smoking pot or drinking alcohol or just smoking pot, think smoking pot is so much better until it died suddenly, a heart attack. That's how the system got you. My information is important because I give humans another avenue to go down if they have the guts for it, okay? No matter what, if you want to live, you'll have to face the pain, all of it, and feed it and release the way I have in my book, or else you will replace one addiction with another and justify it and think intervention on people will save them. Actually, people say like, oh, I'm going to go and intervene. I used to be a drug addict, so now I'm going to go and tell them, I want to save you from being a drug addict. I'm going to do an intervention and save you because it's my duty, because I'm an ex-drug addict. I'm going to save you. Really? Really? And so no matter what, if you want to live, you will have to face the pain, all of it, and feed it and release the way I have in my book, or else you will replace one addiction with another of saving people and justify it, or drugs and alcohol, and think interventions on people will save them. Nope, honey, you still have the issue. You're not home free to think you have now a leg to save other people. You just found a different way to keep those demons at bay until those demons turn on you. And the people you're trying to save will turn on you. And trying to save others via interventions and confrontations ensure those demons attack you. And they will. And I learned the hard way. When I tried to save the hospice patient, when I tried to save people personally on the phone or even out there telling you, oh, you should do this, this, and that, and say that my way is the only way and not give you the warnings, which I have given you warnings, but all right, the demons attacked me. When an outcome came out that was not favorable to their expectations, that's when the demons turn on you. That's why the system does not want you to get involved in people's health issues, because they will turn on you. That's why it's a doctor and a licensed professional who has the system to back them up and the insurance, the malpractice insurance, as well as law enforcement to help regulate that situation. But you as a layperson should not be getting involved in anyone's situations. I just say, hey, this is how I did it. You still have to now look at your background. Can you handle it? You need food. I'm not giving you any remedies. I'm not saying even the J juice, because not even the J juice. I'm done with the J juice. It was the food. It was the meat, the milk, the cheese, the eggs, the yogurt. It was the cream. It was the coffee. It was everything that saved my ass. And I pulled out the shit. That's what saved my ass. I salted my food. I drank a bunch of milk or drank a bunch of cream, ate so much ice cream every single freaking day that even some of the holistic people that came on my Facebook were like, why would you do that? Why would you buy 12 boxes of 12 ice cream bars? Because I needed the milk. Because we were going through an energy conversion last summer. I still felt sick, but I was eating ice cream every day. That's what was feeding me and the demons as I was releasing them. It was the cream that saved my ass. And yeah, I got big too. But I'd rather get big and then small than get so big and have all those things torture you. And so that's how I saved myself. And it was a 7-year process. This is not going to be a short-term thing. You're going to have to prepare yourself, people around you, if they're on board. Talk to your doctor. Let them know what you're doing. If you've been under a doctor's care and they're saying, well, you have heart issues and you have other issues. You tell them, well, okay, I want to eat food. If you have food allergies, especially like milk and other stuff, ask a doctor to help you through that process. A little bit every day. Blow your nose, cough, pull out the shit, feel whatever you got to feel. Because chances are actually what happens when you're taking food that you are allergic to is probably the fact that nutrition is what you needed to release the demons. You're so full of demons that food actually gave you the nutrition, or that food was used as medicine that you hold inside your body, antibodies against that food. And the body's trying to protect itself from that food. And so you don't know which side of those on. So then you have to bring in stuff slowly and release the demons. And sometimes it requires a doctor without giving you any more antibiotics or other remedies. And you're going to find ones that are willing to do that. Others probably won't. They don't want the exposure. And so you'll have to play that one very carefully. But again, my background is I had PMDD and that's pretty much it. So I was lucky in that manner. Other people are not so lucky. All right, that's all I'm going to say, but I really needed to do that. I finally was able to talk about cannabis without sounding like a judgmental prick. All right, bye.